Today on XPlay, we review Halo Infinite. I hope that's enough because we didn't plan anything else.
Is there a problem?
It's game time.
Welcome to XPlay. There are many great days in history.
The day women won the right to vote.
The moon landing.
The groundbreaking launch of old G4.
The inexcusable relaunch of new G4.
And the return of Halo to our Halo boxes.
Halo Infinite is here, and so is our review.
Master Chief, make us proud.
After a long and winding road, Halo Infinite is finally here, my friends. And unlike Halo Infinite, this review has a co-op feature. I'll be specializing in the campaign.
And I'll be dissecting multiplayer.
Now, strap on the power armor. We're going in. First objective, the Halo Infinite campaign. Perfect noodles. That was the initial sensation I had upon starting to move and shoot as Master Chief for the first time in 6 years. Before the pandemic, before Trump and the dissolution of Western democracy, before BTS became a household name. It's been a long time since we stepped into the metal clogs of Spartan 117, and it feels good. I use the noodle analogy because controlling Master Chief hits that inarticulable satisfaction of springy, slippery ramen or the mild resistance of an al dente pasta. Can't explain it, but damn if I don't notice it every time. This endorphin release at the start of Halo Infinite was a nostalgic rush, a warm recollection from the other side of recent history, a sneaking sense that things might be okay again. That lasted for a good 4 hours, until the disoriented, clumsy pastiche that is the Halo Infinite campaign came into focus through my plasma-tinted glasses. The controls are the highlight of Halo Infinite's bloated campaign, and it's to their credit and the attention paid to them by 343 Industries that they managed to almost carry this player through the peaks and valleys of enjoyment. It's in the game's turgid final sections that it became clear that had the game not felt so precise and satisfying, that I would have put down the controller and walked away earlier. So what is Halo Infinite? A familiar Halo game or an open world map game? Well, it's both, kinda. More like how two fraternal twins get separated at birth and become reunited as adults where they don't know each other, but also know they share the same DNA and toothpaste preferences. It's kinda like that, you know? Okay, maybe that's too specific, but the analogy works. Halo Infinite's story sections are broken up into 3 large chunks, where Master Chief and his new AI companion, referred to only as the Weapon, attempt to stop a new rainbow coalition of homicidal fanatic alien hegemony known as the Banished. The Banished have gotten all up in a tizzy about booting up a new Halo ring and threatening what little is left of humanity. As for the humanity that is the threatened, there doesn't seem to be a ton of it. In the intervening period between Halo 5 and Infinite, the UNSC, including the massive ship the Infinity, have all been destroyed, including all the other Spartans. Again. At least, that's what I think is a summary of Halo Infinite's story, but I'm not 100%, because the storytelling is so oblique that piecing together the meaningful threads to form a coherent narrative whole is as desperate as asking Joe Manchin for new policy ideas. At the heart of this Faulknerian fog of comprehension is that the most significant details that would possess the story with operatic import, the events that would galvanize the player with the palpable sense of high stakes, like the decimation of the USNC, the obliteration of the Spartans, is not only not depicted in the game, but only referred to as established history in a few conversations, primarily with the inexplicable character of the pilot. One might want to be a little more explicit in your basic story premise. Now, there is one aspect to the story that got me to sit up, and that is a reference to something called the Endless, which is allegedly worse than the Flood. Yep, that's right. Something worse than the Flood. This promise of a massive rabbit getting pulled out of the hat in Infinite is the hook that had me willing to stay, expecting a shift in the proceedings on the level of combat evolved in the library. Well, as of this taping, as I try to muster the patience to endure the 3rd stage of the final boss and get one hit killed again, the Endless Rabbit has not appeared. And honestly, I stopped caring hours ago when it became clear it wasn't going to be pertinent to the gameplay in Infinite. Of the 3 sections that comprise the traditional Halo levels of the campaign, the action of the first and second parts are without a doubt the strongest the game has to offer. Interesting environments and enemy assortments abound, and a bevy of new and distinct weapons, many of which have made respawning turns in multiplayer. They set the stage for combat scenarios that move Halo forward from its well-established and well-regarded history. At the crux of this new death dynamic is the grapple shot that can fling Master Chief around the battle space and provides a propulsive quality to combat that elevates Infinite from prior treatments. There's no stop and pop logic to firefights. You have to keep in motion or death will visit, usually quickly and most likely without warning. This freneticism is only enlivened by new classes of brutes, elites, and grunts, requiring faster and more comprehensive analysis of the field. The closest analog to combat in Infinite is in the Doom reboots, but even then, the frequently expansive arenas have so many vertical and horizontal opportunities that Halo Infinite's shooting and slashing becomes a style unto itself. In a notable addition to the franchise, 343 went full Ubisoft and added skill trees. Spartan cores littered around the map allow you to upgrade your various tools, but most importantly, you can upgrade the grapple shot to become a non-stop murder machine. The grapple shot never, ever gets old, and I used it with the unbound rapacity of a 12-year-old boy discovering himself. But the sublime details can only carry the experience so far, and it's the creativity of how the player is forced to apply these techniques that maintains interest, and where, in the abysmal third act, the campaign doesn't just lose steam, but no longer combine hydrogen and oxygen. In featureless after featureless Forerunner room, Infinite indulges in a greatest hits playlist of exactly what you were just doing, all the while underpinning the affair with music and important lines of dialogue that telegraph that something significant is happening. Soon. But not soon enough, because like an SNL sketch in the final episode of Squid Game, it just doesn't know how to end. Instead, offering up threadbare boss battles and combat denouements with the endless desperation of a viewer waiting for a Firefly reboot. It's been 16 years. It's time to let it go. In the end, the traditional Halo levels in Infinite are too much and very little all at the same time. You run an increasingly uninspired gauntlet to stop bad aliens from gaining control of the Halo, all in the hopes that you'll learn why, and begin caring as a result. There's not enough here to maintain the mystery and too much to endure to figure out it wasn't really worth it. Then there's the other, overly distinct half of Halo Infinite, the open world gameplay and challenges. The best way to describe the experience is this.
Spartan contingent is ready to go. Commander Starpon offers similar sentiments regarding our infantry and ODST divisions.
Messy and fun surprises. The open world section of the game actually fare better in providing satisfying bursts of action and take better advantage of the game's combat opportunities, even at the expense of memorable design and with messier explication. It's not revolutionary and quite familiar, as various points on the map offer one of a handful of scenarios: assassinate a high-value target, capture a forward operating base to become a fast travel and loadout point, assist soldiers, and undermine enemy installations. What elevates this well above the typical map game is that you play out the familiar with Infinite's excellent combat. Additionally, the feedback loop into combat makes the open world aspects pretty compulsive. The less deliberate environments of the open world also afford more emergent moments similar to what's been discovered in multiplayer. Fight a hunter with a Hawk helicopter, or take a rake the scattered grunts. There's inventive opportunities in every encounter, and I expect there will be even more once co-op becomes available. Having said that, some of the locations deeper in the map are difficult enough that they seem intended for co-op and require some pretty cheesy maneuvers on my part to resolve. But that's all part and parcel of the messy nature of this aspect of the game. Similar to soldiers getting squashed by vehicle drops, the emergent fun is at the expense of a certain elegance. Animations can get jerky as the AI fumbles for the right routine, collisions that don't collide, and physics that make Newton cry. Nothing horrifying, but the reliable possibility of frustrating oddities permeate any moment when out freely on the Halo. Though what's truly frustrating about the open world activities and rewards of Halo Infinite is how wholly disconnected it is from the other traditional campaign sequences. Those special weapons and vehicles, for all intents and purposes, don't carry over. The enemy behavior and tactics you've studied and developed have little bearing. It feels like coming back home to the parental oversight of the port noise after a great week with your cousin, Huckleberry Finn. I don't know if, with more time, they could have been finessed together into a more elegant whole, but as it stands, you can see the intentions for something pretty spectacular, and it's a letdown to fall so short of that realization. That's the one last thing I want to stress. I really dig Halo as a universe in all its impenetrable lore, which is why I find no pleasure in conveying my middling affection for Infinite. I was looking forward to this campaign as the much-needed heroic cap to a frustrating year. All the right pieces were in place, but at a certain point you realize you're trying to mix Mega Bloks with Legos. You want it to make sense, but you know it really doesn't. Like Nongshim Picante Bowl Noodle.
Our Halo review is just too big to fit into one segment. Stick around after the break to learn the final score.
That's right. We just deep teased you hard. Now you have to come back. Look at that majestic lizard.
This is TV.
What's the recipe for surprising the kids, treating yourself, and ditching dish duty? You're looking at it. Order your Pizza Hut faves like Original Pan, Original Stuffed Crust, and more at pizzahut.com. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Pizza Hut stuffed crust is the crust that made crust good. Topped and stuffed with over a half-pound of cheese. What are you so afraid of? Loving it? Original stuffed crust, just $12.99. Only from Pizza Hut. No one out-pizzas the Hut.
Welcome back to XPlay.
We now return to our Halo Infinite review in progress. So now that the campaign is out of the way, it's time to talk about what you're really here for, the multiplayer. While Infinite's campaign is due out later this week, 343 decided to give us an early Christmas present by dropping multiplayer almost a month in advance. Now 343 technically called it a beta, but come on now, we know better. The early release has given us plenty of time to dig in and find out whether Halo firmly snatched back its multiplayer crown, or if it's just another drop in the wide ocean of shooters. With the rise of hero shooters and battle royales, Halo was stuck in a bit of a no man's land. If they changed the formula up too much, they would wind up pissing off the old fans, and if they didn't update things enough, they could risk turning off potential new fans. Somehow, through either divine intervention or sheer force of will, the team at 343 managed to make a multiplayer game that feels incredibly modern, yet still classically Halo. Let's get this out of the way. Halo Infinite's multiplayer plays like a goddamn dream. The running, the gunning, the grapple shotting a dude and socking him in the face all feels so damn good, smooth as butter. This isn't just an arbitrary change either. The ability to strafe, slide, thrust, and grapple opens up a variety of defensive and offensive techniques to help navigate maps, evade fire, or to get your drop on your target. The grapple shot is easily the standout addition to gameplay. The versatility of this thing is absurd. If you need to make a quick escape or shorten the distance between an opponent, the grapple shot has you covered. Seriously, grappling onto an enemy and mailing them in the face feels so good, I can't stop, and damn it, I'm not going to. In recent years, there's been a push towards massive, large-scale skirmishes in battle royale games and even shooters like Battlefield 2042. Ooh, we don't say that name. Infinite stands out from the pack with its excellent 4v4 multiplayer. The smaller scale skirmishes are a refreshing change of pace, proving once again that what's old is new. So anyway, how about we talk about some guns? Every weapon in this game is fun to use and feels well balanced. Take the skewer, for example. It's great against vehicles and one-shots your opponents. This is offset by the fact that the skewer has limited ammo and you have to be incredibly precise, so it's unlikely you'll be one-shotting folks left and right. Unless, of course, you're goated like me. From Team Slayer, Oddball, and Capture the Flag, all modes you expect to be in a Halo game are there. Infinite has already launched its first event with the Fiesta playlist. I hope Fiesta becomes a permanent part of the Infinite, as it adds a neat wrinkle to matches. Instead of everyone starting with the same loadout, you start with a random set of weapons and equipment that change each time you die. If you're anything like me, you tend to get locked in on the same couple of weapons. Fiesta is a great way to get acclimated to the different weapons and equipment types available in the game. By forcing you to switch your style up, it opens the possibility of finding some surprisingly new favorites. All this great gameplay would mean nothing without some fun maps to unleash chaos, and luckily, Infinite delivers. The 10 maps available at launch offer a solid variety between intimate close-quarter skirmishes and large-scale warfare. Map variety is only going to increase as 343 adds more maps post-launch, as well as when the community begins to craft their own maps with the upcoming Forge mode. Speaking of large-scale warfare, that brings me to Big Team Battle. Not gonna lie, this mode doesn't hit quite as hard as the standard 4v4 for me. Big Team Battle is great when you have a solid squad of friends to play with. Going into a match with a bunch of randos is a different story. But now let's talk about the Battle Pass and progression. 343 scored some goodwill when they announced Battle Passes would never expire, giving you plenty of time to complete them at your own pace. A problem players face early on is that the progression system isn't tied to how well you did in the match, but instead through daily challenges. This initially made progression feel like a bit of a grind. The developers have already made tweaks to progression to make it feel less grindy and have stated that they will continue to tweak progression as time goes on. Overall, though, these are just minor nitpicks in what is easily the best Halo multiplayer suite in ages. After a decade of Halo's multiplayer suffering an identity crisis, Infinite marks a desperately needed return to form for the franchise. The variety of weapons, fun game modes, and fluidity of movement all combine to make what is easily one of the year's most impressive multiplayer shooters. And while yes, the game does have some minor issues, but these are nitpicks, especially when you consider that unlike some games released this year, Battlefield 2042, the game just works. I know. It's sad that a multiplayer shooter working at launch is something to celebrate, but this is where we are. The cherry on top is that you don't have to drop a single penny to enjoy everything Halo Infinite's multiplayer has to offer. If none of that has to convince you to give Halo Infinite multiplayer a download, I frankly don't know what will. So now that that's out of the way, take us home, Adam.
Thanks, Frost. I'm going to come out and say it. If Halo Infinite only had its campaign to go off of, this game would easily be a 3. 343's vision of an open-world Halo is certainly ambitious, but unfortunately, their reach was just outside their grasp. Thankfully, the game's stellar multiplayer suite adds such an immense value to the package that it makes it easier to stomach the campaign's shortcomings. That's why we're giving Halo Infinite 4 crushed Space Marines out of 5.
And that's our review. But the conversation's just starting. We had a lot to say about Halo Infinite.
It was heated, but cordial. I didn't even swear, I don't think.
You probably did.
Yeah, I probably did. Just watch the thing already.
Frost and Black Okage are joining me for a discussion of all things Halo Infinite. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, hey.
It's good to get the Halo out of the system. It was a long, arduous review process to get through that campaign in a very limited amount of time. When you get to my age, don't stay up till 3 in the morning. Just don't. It doesn't work. What does Halo mean to you? I'll start with you, Corey.
For me, it was just something for the guys to bond over. It was innovative. It was ahead of its time.
it was the snappiest shooter on console. There was nothing like it before. Before that, the only thing I think I could really think I can enjoy that was multiplayer was probably Unreal Tournament. But I mean, that was a PC shooter. So like, this was the first one on console where I felt like, wow, this is something that I could run with the boys.
I remember playing it before school, after school, with friends. I didn't own an Xbox until later on, so it was mostly a game that I played over at my friend's house. Kind of reminds me of GoldenEye in a way, but it was kind of like our generation's GoldenEye. I imagine that like for Adam and KP's age group, that GoldenEye was kind of like the big one, but Halo was the GoldenEye for those in our 30s.
I really want to touch on something that TBH said, and this is very pertinent to the multiplayer review, is, you know, there's all that talk and anger and yada, yada, yada about you're not inspiring me enough to meet these challenges. But at the end of the day, what I love so much about the multiplayer in Halo is I'm just having a good time. It's just sort of interesting seeing that split by people who want more goals with their good time, and those like myself, and Frost, I'd love to hear more about it from you, who just like the idea that there's a good time to be had, even with randos, when playing Halo multiplayer.
Yeah, I think what I'm enjoying most about Halo is just, I'm getting a lot of games in. Like I can do a 2-3 hour session and I get a bunch of games in versus like if I were to play something like Apex, I would only get a handful of games in because like the average game is like 20 minutes.
And I think you already talked about this, Adam, but the game feels so smooth. It's buttery soft. I know that talking to some of the former Halo pros of the HCS series, at the highest level, there is conversation that the game feels unbalanced right now. Maps are a little bit wonky, especially when you're playing around timed objectives. So there are definitely like growing pains in that, and I don't want to like completely ignore that because I know in the review we talk about kind of everything that's good and beautiful about it for kind of like the average player, but when you're playing it real sweaty, there are still things that need to be changed. But other than that, there's still a lot of positive support from even the old Halo community coming over into the new one. The HCS, I think, had over 500 teams that are going out for it. So Halo is back in a very big way at basically every level, from the casual player all the way up to the top esports level.
XPlay's in-depth discussion on Halo Infinite continues right after the break. Stay tuned.
E is the only place Hollywood icons would send their kids to work.
Dude, are you kidding me?
Wednesdays on E.
Today, breeding season. Nope, I will not be doing that.
8 celebrity kids.
These are the shoes I was telling you about. The hard ones? They're perfect for the ranch, right?
Famous parents.
My dad is Shaquille O'Neal.
Your dad is like worldwide. 0 life skills.
I don't touch sheep. I don't ride horses. Oh my God, what are you doing?
Giddy up for relatively famous ranch rules. Wednesdays at 9, only on E.
Something going on around here. My people are coming to kill everyone.
You have to do something about this. You're an alien. Phone home.
Welcome back to XPlay. We continue our in-depth discussion about Halo Infinite right now.
In a year with a Battlefield that didn't come with problems out of the box, and a a Call of Duty that was fun, where would sort of Halo Infinite's multiplayer stack up?
I definitely say it's probably the best one of the year. But like she said, it's kind of like by default, it's like, you know, Battlefield's broken, and then Call of Duty is Call of Duty. And then, to be honest, I mean, like, Halo is still kind of Halo to me, but like, I guess it wins by default because it's so buttery smooth compared to the other two.
With campaign in mind, Frost, I know you played it some. I don't think that you did the crazy thing that I did and tried to get through all of it with all of the major side stuff completed. What are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, I'm a little cool on it, but I love to hear your take.
So in terms of the story progression, I was actually kind of interested in it. To me, watching the opening sequence, it almost felt to me like 343 were acknowledging some of the trips or hazards that they had with the franchise in the past, because you basically see Master Chief down on his luck. There's like that slow-mo moment where he's kind of going through space and he's kind of, you see the warthog, he like gets bashed into it. It feels like, in a macro sense, it was them almost like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, but in a very respectable way to, hey, it hasn't always been perfect. You've been through a lot. This guy's been through a lot, but let's strap in one more time for a kick-ass adventure. And so from that perspective, I was actually really high on it. I felt really powerful. There were moments when I was playing it, I was yelling and my wife was sitting next to me. I was yelling, I was like, do you know who I am? You don't know who I am. And just like grappling, pulling jackals to me, smashing them in the face. I felt truly like a badass.
I have to say that, like, when I first started it, and I had the same impression as you know, when you get your assault rifle and suddenly you're free to shoot, and I shot it, and apparently I went, Daddy, like just everything just felt great. And I think the story was very promising in the beginning, and that's probably where my disappointment really comes from. The last third, which I found to be so tedious, really felt like either ideas that they had are being tabled for another chapter in the story, kind of like J.J. Abrams in Star Wars. They didn't know where they planned to go with this. I truly am just kind of puzzled how in the story that there could have been such promise of an enemy or some threat to the universe that's waiting on the other side, and it really doesn't become pertinent to the gameplay for the rest of Halo Infinite. It's one of those oddities, but wow, do I love the grapple shot. Yeah. And one piece of advice is upgrade that thing as quickly as possible, because using it as a weapon, it just doesn't get old. I just love it to death.
I also thought that, at least where I've been, and again, I'm kind of past like the first initial boss battle or mini boss battle, was just the smoothness in how to traverse the level. I got on the mongoose and immediately was just like zipping around the map. But then how they had the layout of where it's not so big like Cyberpunk, where it feels empty. At least maybe it gets like that later on. Adam, you can let me know. I felt that there was enough kind of like mini things happening around the world that it still felt like it was inhabited. Like when the ships fly overhead towards the tower, and I almost like instinctively didn't know that if I shot at the ship, maybe it would attack me, but instinctively I went and I hid behind a tree. Like just because I was like, oh, they're searching for me. They're trying to find the demon. So that kind of felt cool to me. Yeah, it's still a relatively empty world. I was trying to experiment with like my grapple hook, like grabbing hold of rocks and like launching myself around. But anytime I encountered enemies, it felt really good. And they give you obviously like a lot of lifts to get around the map pretty quickly.
So I would like to preface, I've only played it for like an hour and a half in the office, so I have the least experience with the campaign. So like I was actually like, I had this feeling when I was kind of traversing, when I actually got into the open world, when I hopped on the vehicles, I had this feeling, I was like, I just feel like it'd be better with another person. Did you get that? Like,
I was literally playing it and talking to a friend of mine, and I was just like, I cannot wait till campaign mode comes out for co-op, because this is already, like, I can tell that this would be so much fun with friends. If you just had like a little convoy and you just have someone next to you on the couch, or you're playing with someone online, it would just immediately be a blast.
Well, it's just traversing the environment.
There's a challenge that actually manifests both in the open world and quite a bit of the tedium, I would say, of the latter part of the more story-oriented missions in the campaign, that I think as a single person on normal, it felt oddly imbalanced. Some of the assassinations in the open world are so much fun, and I wanted to do it with other people. There's like two overpowered hunters that, like, I found a way to take care of it, but I kind of want to do it a real way. And yeah, I think co-op's going to be a game changer. So with that, we have a reason to talk about Halo Infinite further down the line once that becomes available, as well as the Forge. TBH, Frost, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Adam.
We appreciate you having us.
Hey everyone, we'd love to hear what you think about Halo Infinite and generally what you're digging about the show so far.
Join us in our Discord server and say hi.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.